So to introduce myself, I'm Dave Broder. I'm with IMI. We're the reps for the East Coast for Illustra and Exacq Vision. So for who is IMI, it's probably the faces you know from the folks who got involved with you to get you onto the call today with the help of our local reps. So I really appreciate the IMI folks helping promote this event and getting you guys involved. I think this is a great topic, and I love being able to focus it this way, really with a feature-based discussion on cameras with a real specific application. Before I get going, just again, thank you so much. This is the first one of our seminars that you've joined with us on. I really appreciate you taking the time and making the time for us in your day to cover a topic like this. And for the folks who have joined before, well, welcome back, and thank you so much. I find it so flattering that folks see value in this and in the topics that we've been covering to want to come back and learn more about a wealth of different topics that we've covered within the security space. So thank you so much for returning, and I hope this one is as valuable to you as the others that you've joined. So thank you so much, really appreciate it, and yeah, let's start diving in. So the briefest of agendas to show you what we're going to be talking about, because we're going to be diving right into it. We're going to do a very, very brief overview of Illustra as a brand, our brand philosophies, and the basic overview of the breadth of our camera line. And then we're really quickly going to pivot to a feature-based discussion. I'm not interested in just reading off a data sheet with you guys. I can send you whatever data sheets for cameras that you want. I really want to talk about the features you're going to see, spread throughout the line, and particularly how those features impact your Exacq NVR deployments and add additional features or take advantage of features that Exacq uses to make everything play nicely and be a nice, smooth, easy install. And there's no better way to highlight those features than by the coincidental release of the new Illustra Flex camera. So our latest generation in our most popular portion of our camera line that's really focused on common scenarios. You're going to see a lot of these features that we talk about benefiting Exacq showing up in that product line. So we're going to highlight that as well. That's just serendipity that came out just last week ahead of this presentation. And all of this, we're also going to have a focus not just on the features of the cameras themselves, but a feature that kind of doesn't show up on a data sheet. How these cameras are put in and the impact that has on the speed of your installs, the ability to do more jobs and be able to manage your margins, make sure that we're not exceeding the budgeted time for the installation of these cameras, and some clever tricks and tools that we have for that. And of course, to cover just some basic sales tools available for you to help manage all this as well and help qualify the right camera for you. So to start off, I wanted to deal with the elephant in the room right off the bat. The first question I usually get, are we NDAA compliant? Yes, we are NDAA compliant on all of our current Illustra models. So NDAA became a thing back in 2019 when that was passed. It means we have to be careful about what vendors we're working with for chipsets and different parts of technology, because cybersecurity is a part of our everyday conversations. It feels like in every aspect of life now. So that's a part and parcel to how we look at our camera line. We have to meet that. We work with a lot of government customers. Our dealers who are working with government customers, this is especially important, even just government grant projects. The NDAA has clauses in there that if you're reselling any technology that doesn't meet that guidance, even on other projects, there's potential penalties built in there. So we take that very seriously. But it's not just lip service. We treat cybersecurity in general as a core part of our value that we bring to our offering. And this has real world applications. There was a real oil pipeline that was hit with a cyber terrorist attack because someone got physical access to a camera, installed a malware that wound its way back to their operations center and exposed their operating systems to attack. And that's ultimately what folks are looking for. That was a real black eye for I'm sure whoever did that installation. We take cybersecurity very seriously. So that's little things like HTTPS communication to Exacq on all of our cameras. We're using secure encrypted communication. Being able to disable features you don't need. We actually have a very easy just kind of checkbox for an enhanced security mode that turns on HTTPS, turns off some legacy features like RTSP or FTP ports and things like that that generally aren't even used anymore. And this isn't just a one-time thing. It's easy for someone to come out with a new camera and say, hey, look at our new, it's cyber secure, never been hacked. never been out before. Of course, it hasn't been exposed to anything yet. It's really key about a cybersecurity program is that it's ongoing. What happens when that device is compromised? When you find out, oh, that Intel chip does have a vulnerability, what do? And this is where I think a lot of manufacturers really treat this the wrong way. I see a lot of manufacturers try to bury it, and they keep it quiet, and they hope that they can slip a patch into their next update without anybody ever finding out. I guess you could maybe call that the Microsoft approach. They just got a lot of heat for burying a critical vulnerability in their, if you hosted your own mail server for like 8 months. That exposes all these people for all this time, and they don't even know it. We take a very proactive approach. You can actually sign up for alerts on our website for cybersecurity. You check off which products, which brands you're working with. We'll proactively notify you if there's any vulnerability that's discovered that could potentially affect your device, along with some immediate steps to remedy that. And if there's a patch or something like that that we need to come out with to ultimately close it, we get that out within 2 weeks. And that takes precedence over all other product development. So they really take that seriously. And that's part and parcel for all of the cameras across our line. And so all of this ultimately boils down to with the actual feature set of the device itself. We try to provide value for any budget that you might be working with. So a combination of quality optics, clever, intelligent features, as well as keeping in mind that the installation of the product itself is going to affect the quality of the job and how smoothly everything goes in as well. So again, we'll be talking about that too. So the 3 different categories of cameras that we ultimately break down to, we have our Pro line, which is the best of the best, the highest end optics, the most premium features for the most challenging or most high security types of environments. And a host of different devices in there, from fixed domes, our fisheyes fall into that category. Quality PTZ, that PTZ up here in New England, we've got a grocery chain that uses, I think, 30 to 60 of them per store up in the Northeast. So very, very popular device on there as well. The Flex is going to be probably the focus of our topic today, because we just had that new product release into that space. So that's got our multi-sensor product, a mix of fixed and compact, a PTZ in that series as well. And this is built with a feature set really focused for everyday scenarios. Very forgiving product line, wide dynamic range on everything. So it's going to handle a wide array of lighting conditions and features that are really focused for the common scenarios that we're going to be talking about. And then finally, our Essentials line, our value entry-level cameras still fully meet NDAA, and they're focused really on the most core functions, to provide a great picture with an easy install, particularly with your Exacq Vision box. So some of the features that we're going to be talking about through the course of this that you're going to hear, and you're going to find these features really spread across our cameras, depending on which series you're looking at and what need you're trying to solve for a customer. Things like network loss recording, where let's say you're servicing your NVR and you're doing a software update. Well, it's not going to record while you're doing the update. So when we sense from the camera that you've stopped that recording, we know to shuffle that over to the SD card. When your update's done, the NVR is back online and we can communicate. Well, at that point, it knows to then download that video to fill the gaps in the NVR's history. So it's great if you're servicing a box, if you have a network outage or something like that, if the camera's still powered, it's still going to be recording and can backfill that into Exacq. So that's a great feature to be on the lookout for that you'll find on most of our cameras and very easy to qualify right from Exacq's own webpage. I mentioned HTTPS communication, easy connect, being able to discover our cameras through Exacq, reassign IP addresses, things like that. We, of course, have our own installation tools for a range of different things beyond just bringing them into the NVR. Another one that we're going to be talking about heavily, analytics. Analytics are becoming a part of our everyday vernacular when we're dealing with security, and that's a great thing. I'm going to show you some great applications that we can talk about in the breadth of analytics that are available within the Illustra line. And then a little one, actually, I'll mention too, Fish ID warping on all platforms. It seems a simple thing, but it's not something that you can take for granted with every manufacturer. And this is a great spot to pivot over to my Exacq Vision software. So you should all see the Exacq Vision on the screen there. Now, I've got a few things I want to call out for you. Right, actually, probably the most prominent that you see on my screen here, I've got my camera link button, some on-screen actionable icons. We integrate our I/O for the cameras that support it into Exacq Vision, so it's a great way to interact with devices, physically out there. I could put in a relay and wire it up for door release with my access control, and I replace the icon with a little door there. I can monitor status of motion sensors, mechanical operations. We actually have a talkaphone entry phone right outside that if we're releasing the door, it's actually also going to alert an input on my system, so I can monitor that stuff and kind of action on stuff, maybe toggle an alarm system right through the I/O of a camera. So that's a nice thing to be able to bring in. The other one that I mentioned for fisheyes. Now, fisheye cameras, you've worked with them before. You're probably familiar with the trick. If you right-click, and instead of digital PTZ, you're going to see fisheye capabilities where I can de-warp, I can maneuver like a PTZ. This is a really handy option. We'll get a lot of folks that like to do that. The problem with that is it's depending on your camera manufacturer, it's the camera manufacturer. We at Illustra, when you're de-warping our Illustra camera, it's our software that's actually running within kind of Exacq's package to allow that function to happen. And the issue now is if you have non-standard devices. So a lot of folks support Windows platform, that's their go-to. And I actually had a site in my territory that did this. It was a school. They went in, they put in a competitor's fisheye cameras everywhere, a nice quality camera. It wasn't a bad camera with a bad image or anything like that. But they didn't find out or really recognize until the end of the install that the customer's client PCs, more than half of them were Macintosh devices, MacBooks. And the fisheye that they chose, that de-warp function only worked on PCs. It didn't work on Mac. So their PC users, they're looking at it and they're saying, I don't see what anybody's talking about. I'm de-warping just fine. But if you're on Mac or if you're working locally, maybe on a Linux server, not necessarily going to be supported. So with our Illustra cameras, you can take that for granted. Our 5-megapixel fisheye, our indoor-outdoor 12-megapixel fisheye, de-warp on all platforms. Even the mobile app. If you have Exacq Vision Mobile, that's a little Linux client technically, you can do the digital PTZ from the Exacq Vision mobile client, which is really neat as well. So to frame the rest of our conversation here, we're going to start looking at really the next generation of our cameras. The Illustra Flex 3rd generation came out just in advance of this presentation. It really wasn't planned for, well, I didn't plan it for that, but it's great serendipity for me to give me some new stuff to talk about on this front with some exciting updates that hopefully you might be hearing for the first time from me. So I get to deliver lots of good news. So the new Illustra Flex, standard specs that you'd expect. We covered a lot of general surveillance kind of coverage with the focal range of these cameras. One of the new additions, we've added IR to the compact dome. If you were familiar with our previous generation, we kind of treated the compacts, they were indoor-outdoor. You could use them outdoor if you had lighting. We didn't put IR in them. That was big voice of customer, that was something that would be appreciated in the next generation. And here it is. So you're going to see that we have a Flex with IR now, still supporting that. It supports that network loss recording on all these cameras. And something that's going to be coming on that cybersecurity side, we're going to be doing an update in the future that actually encrypts that SD card so that someone can't pop that out of a camera, plug it into their laptop, and try to decrypt the video or anything like that. And then this is the biggest update for me. I mentioned bringing analytics more into the everyday conversation. Well, the Illustra Flex really is our common scenario line. And I think analytics have really shown themselves to be perfect for a lot of common scenarios. So we've taken, previously you had to go up to our premium line, our Illustra Pros, to get the chipsets that could run the analytics. Now we've brought that into the 4K models of our Flex series. And we went with the 4K because that's going to have the most pixels on target. We figured if we're going to do it, it's already going to be, you know, the more premium camera within the range, and that's a great place to deploy that chipset with the additional pixels on target to give a really good experience with those analytics. And it's perfect for pairing with Exacq, and that's there not just on the varifocal models that you see a lot of folks do it. We're doing that on the 4K compact as well. So we even have a 4K 8-megapixel fixed lens with analytics with IR. That's great for general deployment for all sorts of scenarios. So the analytics that you get with this, you get a combination of different rules that you can set up and run within the GUI. Ultimately, 3 total rules that you can run at once from a selection that we've got available for you. So object detection, it kind of learns the background. Is there a new kind of object with solid borders that we detect? in that environment. Abandon, remove, that's a real handy one for folks that are dealing with schools. You know, is that a book bag that a student left by a bench, or is this a suspicious item that I've got to maybe get authorities involved for? It could be as simple as, hey, I want to set up an alarm for when someone leaves the couch in front of my dumpster. All of those are perfectly valid everyday scenarios that I've had folks run into. For folks dealing with retailers, things like shelf sweep or queue length. Shelf sweep is your literal top shelf merchandise. You have a camera looking down. If enough of it disappears within a short enough amount of time based on your preferences, maybe half the product suddenly leaving in a 5-minute span, that's not normal, that can trigger an alert for your operations and record that video. Queue length, we again have a grocery chain up here in the Northeast that uses an Illustra camera on every checkout line, and they have an alert feed in their operations room. So if lines start queuing up, they need to open up more registers perhaps. That brings up a video feed, it lights up a light in their operations room, and they get on the horn and they'll open up a couple more checkout lanes to speed folks through and improve their customer experience as well as their own profits, you know, really being able to target, you know, their need at that point. And from an everyday perspective, this stuff just helps you minimize search time. Each of those 3 alarms that you set up is going to be available as an individual alert within Exacq. So you can have that trigger recording, of course, that's going to make our searches faster when we're looking for that activity. We can be proactive about it. We can send you an email with a thumbnail or short little compressed video clip or a push notification to your mobile app when some of these alerts happen. So let's take a look at that. So here's one that we actually set up in our employee area where they'd set up a table, and whenever somebody leaves or removes an object from the table, it sets off this alert. And if you look closely, if I was just searching motion for this area, I would be going through more than 500 different motion events over the 13-hour period that I'm looking at here. Not an insignificant amount of time. But using my list search here, the list search, a lot of folks, I don't know if you've used it much in Exacq, it is great with active access control integration and with analytics because I can filter out those motion alerts and just look at the items here. So I can see I've got a few instances of someone either leaving a box of donuts, taking it off the table, putting it back a few different times through the day. And if I actually have a pause, if you look closely, they're removing JPEGs. They actually give you kind of a preview of what that activity is as you're looking at it. So that can be a real handy way, again, to quickly find that point over the weekend where someone left all their junk in front of your dumpster that you're now left to deal with and head scratching your head trying to figure it out and looking at extra expense for that. Hopefully that lets you be proactive and react to that stuff in real time as well. And there's all sorts of examples for that. Maybe loitering in a fire lane, someone who parks in a fire lane or a no parking zone. And you know, if that car's there for more than X number of seconds, that object's there for more than X number of seconds or minutes, it sets that off. Few other items I wanted to touch on with the cameras here. Tamper detection, a few different ones too. Blur, so if someone tried to rub Vaseline on it or if they just cover it with paint or a paintball or something, or they nudge it to try to create a blind spot, all that's going to create tamper alerts that we can feed to Exacq Vision to react how you're looking for. Another thing I want to show you here, the setup. I talked about how we really try to look at our cameras holistically. It's not just about the features that we can put onto a spec sheet. It's about the experience of working with the device, how quickly you're able to put that in, how efficiently, how many problems you have doing it, and trying to solve some everyday challenges with maybe some clever thoughts in terms of how we're putting this stuff together, you know, shipping it to you. So I want to actually show you a few things that we've done to try to tackle installability on this product. Okay, so you should see spotlighted here, my main webcam with my new Illustra Flex camera. So let's open this guy up and take a look at some of the installation things that I'm talking about. So what do you get in here? You get your install guide, of course, your template, you know, stick this where you're going to be mounting it. It tells you, you know, where you're going to have to put it, where you're drilling your holes, which end is front. I'm going to set this aside. This is our installation tools and things. We'll talk about that in a minute. Now, one of the things I wanted to call out right from jump here, right accessible at the top of the box is a pigtail with a network plug on it that's going to the camera itself. Now, I know for folks, there's some folks on the call who are probably thinking, I don't love pigtails because pulling this thing through a conduit is a pain. And I agree, this is removable. This is just literally an extender going to the network jack that's inside the camera. So I can actually plug this guy into my PoE switch. If you're someone who likes to set these cameras up on a bench, you've got a customer that's given you a range of IP addresses, you can have the luxury of presetting these devices. Well, I can connect one or multiple. If you've got a 48-point port switch, I can pull in 48 different cameras into my switch and use our Illustra Connect software to IP address them all. You preset the software with the IP range, you hit apply, it's going to allow you to discover that. The other thing, while that's powering up, I want to show you here. We've got a few other clever tools in here too, your install screwdriver, your screws, weatherproof grommets. And here's something too. Now we've already got a pigtail for a weatherproof grommet on the camera. We've given you, your additional weatherproof grommets. These are great if you're going to be terminating your own cable. But if you like to use pre-terminated cable, it's an indoor camera, you got a 100-foot length of cable you already bought, you are not getting an Ethernet jack through this thing unless you've got a handy tool. So this is a simple thing, small little tool that's meant to clip onto your Ethernet cord so that you can feed it through your weatherproof grommet. So if you like to use a pre-terminated cable, just a small, simple little thing that we include, trying to cover you for that type of install, make it a little bit easier for you so you're not trying to figure out how to get this through this thing otherwise, which is usually lopping off the end of it and re-terminating it, which is a pain. Now, the other thing I want to show you too, in here, we open this guy up, actually take it out, show you a few other things they've included in here. Now, if I look on the bottom, it's actually, I've got something taped onto here. This is actually a mounting plate. I'm going to try to hold this up close. It's a little tough because it's white on white, but if you look really, really close, you should be able to see there's descriptions on here for all the different electrical boxes that you can mount this to. So single gang, double gang, squared, quad gang. All your different electrical box mounts are included on this little plate that comes with it. My pigtails actually already fed through it. So that's a nice little inclusion for folks that are always looking at what kind of mounts you're looking for. We do have a junction box for it if you prefer like a side knockout, something that's going to give you a little bit bigger space on there to accommodate that. Now I already loosened off the cover here because I wanted to show you another thing. We got our pigtail location. If you want to use our I/O, I can get a pigtail cable to give me my I/O and my audio. Autofocus button there for kind of just point and focus. There's also a micro USB spot. Well, I've got a little Wi-Fi dongle that I can plug in there. Now you can get this from us, but we're not the gatekeepers of this technology. I'll flip it over if you look closely. I got these from StarTech on Amazon. There are certain supported models that you have to have. It's not just anyone that's out there. So we have a supported list that we can get you from tech support. I can get you the model information for these. But what's nice is, let's say you don't have the luxury of setting these up on a bench. You have to hang them, and then we're putting them on the network, as the network's getting set up. We didn't have the luxury of having that ahead of time. Well, I can hang this camera, hook up my wireless adapter, and I can open up my Illustra camera provisioning app. Now on the title screen here, it's got a few options, scan network. If I was on a Wi-Fi network with this camera, I'd be able to pick it up from that, like our Illustra Connect does over a hardwired network. But you see here, there's an option to scan by QR code. Well, if I bring my box back into focus here, on the box, here we are, I have a QR code. I also have space for that IP address that I assigned and plenty of space to write down where this camera is supposed to be installed. So if you're doing it from the bench, you'd use your software to address, as many cameras as your switch can handle. Put down the IP address, put down where it's going, maybe snap a photo of your serial information, and you're good to go. To use the mobile app, I'm going to scan, search by QR code, scan that guy there. Oh, that's impatient me. All right. So you can see on the screen, and I apologize, I can't share this the way I traditionally do because I'm actually connected locally to the Wi-Fi here. I'm not able to connect to the meeting itself. But you see on there, if you look closely, it's got my camera information. It's got my installation wizard. It's going to walk me through the setup of this device. I enter a host ID. That's for the local network on there. I'll just enter that in real quick. Going to update that. It asked me, do you want to run that enhanced security mode? It's going to make me change passwords to do that. I absolutely normally recommend that, but for the purposes of my demo here, I'm just going to skip that step so it doesn't make me take it off camera and type in a lot more stuff. I can change the password. Again, highly recommend that when you're doing that as your actual install. Oh, it is going to make me do that. All right, change the password there. Now, it's actually going to bring up, hi guys, my live camera view. So you can point this guy, make sure you've got it angled the way that you want. It is your testing monitor, you know, right on the phone itself. You can change the orientation, adjust your focus, set an exposure profile. Maybe if you know this is going in a certain environment, we're going to pre-configure the camera for that lighting that we would expect in that environment. Confirm that. I can upload firmware. If I've downloaded the firmware to my phone from the Illustra website, I can update it right through the mobile app. And then finally, of course, it's going to have me set my IP information. So I can turn off DHCP, set a particular static address on this guy. Confirm. It's then going to take a few minutes, reset the camera. At the very end, you can download a configuration file that notes the changes that you made. So if they'd be able to keep track of that, you know, through the device, and you can email that off at the end, either to yourself or save a copy of it locally on the device. So we're already pressed for time. I'm going to switch back to my main feed here. So just a couple more items I wanted to touch on with you, and I appreciate you staying with me. Ooh. If you haven't seen it, our Illustra Flex multi-sensor just came out ahead of the Gen 3 release. So I guess this was Gen like 2.5, 4 4-megapixel fixed lens sensors, 1 license on Exacq, the way you'd expect. This is a really forgiving camera to be in the Flex line too. You see from the different kind of mock-ups, you can get all sorts of different coverages with this device. So on the 360, I love the 270 with the look down so you don't get a blind spot under the camera. Really forgiving, great for a lot of different kind of everyday scenarios you're going to run into. And then I'd be remiss if I let you go without mentioning it. Beyond all the features and the ease of install and the tools that we give you to install, we also have an ongoing marketing promotion to really incentivize you to try this out. I know it's tough to try something new. And especially a camera, you're taking a chance on something if you haven't used it before. You don't have to be a first-time Illustra buyer to take advantage of this, though. You'll see here, you purchase an Illustra Flex or Pro camera, so new camera. You either purchase a new Exacq NVR on that same PO, or provide us the serial number of your existing Exacq branded NVR. So it has to be an Exacq branded box, an actual Q series, A series, what have you from Exacq Vision. But it doesn't have to be a new server. You can have an existing Exacq Vision NVR, a branded box, give us that serial number, the ER number that you see in the software there, and we can apply that license to an existing box. So we'll give you a free license to try out our Illustra cameras. So Flex or Pro series, not the Essentials, unfortunately. Those are really just already a very entry-level, low-cost device. But for the Flex and the Pro, we're going to include that to give you an incentive to try that out. That Flex 4K, again, is a great one to take advantage of that with the analytics on there. Give us that serial number for your existing Exacq Vision box or your new box, and you get your free license applied. So I'm going to send everybody in the chat the document for that. I didn't want to put the promo code on here because I wanted you to have all the full terms and conditions. So I'm going to go over here to the chat and share that in a moment. And that takes us to just past 10 o'clock. I appreciate you guys staying a little extra with me if you were able to. And I know some items came through in the chat as well that I saw off to the corner of my screen. So wanted to take a chance to address some of those with you as well. So let's see here. We have, what version of TLS are we supporting for these cameras? Oh, that is a great question, and I don't have that offhand. That was C. Wheeler. I will have to follow up on that. So I will take note of that. Thankfully, I can download the chat log here. Great question. I don't have that offhand, unfortunately.
No worries. Thanks.
Oh, no problem. I will definitely follow up with you on that. Which camera is used for transportation such as trains and buses? You know, that's a question that's probably best to have one-on-one with your local IMI rep to really qualify the solution, you know, vibration sensitivity and all that. Particularly with these new models, I know they're all IK10. I don't have the particulars on vibration sensitivity for the newest flexes. So that's something probably to qualify with you offline as well. Can the analytics be set up and adjusted right through Exacq Vision VMS? Unfortunately, no. I'm told that that is in the works, that they're working on a platform to be able to interact with, you know, the camera GUI for the programming, and that probably won't just be for Illustra cameras. Of course, Exacq supports 4,800, almost 5,000 different models from different brands. But presently, it's going to be adjusted within the camera itself. Once you set it up in the camera, Exacq just catches the alert, and then it's able to manipulate everything from there. All right, let's see here. What is the name of the app? It is the Illustra camera app. I think that is just it. Let me actually look at it on my phone here. Tyco Illustra. So if you search in the App Store for Tyco, you'll probably see it amongst a number of other branded apps from the company. IR version on multiflex, on the multi-lens. That is on our roadmap. I don't have a particular timeline that I can give you, but we have a number of multi-lens devices on the roadmap. The present one was just our first to market, and again, kind of covering, I think, a good price point and a very versatile type of model. But we have definitely more coming in the multi-lens variety. Not just in our Flex line, you're going to see Pro models with advanced features as well. Country of origin for the Illustra line, I did mention it does meet NDAA. It may vary a bit from model to model and series to series. They are produced a bit kind of all over the place globally, depending on a particular line. A lot of it's, some of it's out of Taiwan, some of it's out of other, you know, parts. Tyco actually does its own manufacturing globally, so there's a number of places that we source these from. But if you need it on a particular brand, or I can even see if maybe there's just a full list, hopefully that's updated with these newest models. Is there an auto backup setting on the server? I'm not sure if that's maybe on the Exacq Vision side. So we do have with Exacq Vision, if you have an enterprise solution, the enterprise system manager software is able to download system configurations from your NVRs. So that is able to facilitate kind of an automatic backup mode, but it is particular, it's on the Exacq side, not really a function of our cameras, but it is a function of Exacq Vision enterprise boxes with the ESM manager. All right. It looks like that's the end of the questions coming in. Oh, thank you, Vincent. That's very kind. I appreciate the kind words. Well, guys, I'm going to let you guys go and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. For the folks who are able to hang on, I'm going to be sending everybody an email with the attachment for the promotion, as well as the link to everything. And actually, while I've got everybody, or the folks here, I think I can... the camera license promo. So that should be going to everybody in the chat, and that's going to be attached to the follow-up email that I'll send. It'll probably come tomorrow because I'd like to have the copy of the video up on YouTube for folks to be able to go and review at that point. But if you take a peek in the chat now, you should have the full document detailing all the particulars of that promotion to take advantage for the Illustra license that's going on through June. Awesome. Well, thank you guys, everybody, and I'll release everybody to the rest of your day. Have a great one.